Hello everyone, this is Gacha Kricis, and this is the quick guide for Cyrene coming up this patch. I'm going to tell you everything from the relics, teams, eidolons, and my personal thoughts at the end of the video. Cyrene does have some issues that I will address after I've gone over the kit and such, because it does affect which teams she'll be used in a lot. Also, I will be doing a giveaway at the end of the video, so make sure you stick around for that. But before we get into it, if you're planning on getting any of these new upcoming characters, a way to get them while saving some money is Loot Bar. Here you can top up on your favorite games such as Genshin, Zenless, and of course Star Rail. Easy, fast, and cheap. And check this out, this 3200 shard pack is only 40 bucks compared to the 50 on the official store. You're saving a whole 25% here. All you need to do is put in your UID, your server region, select whichever pack you're wanting, and in a few minutes, boom, we have the shards. You don't have to take my word for it either. Bigger channels such as Gacha and Jello Impact and their communities use this on the regular. And if you use my link down below, you can get a further 10% off on a purchase on top of the discount you were getting already. But enough of that, let's get on with the guide. Starting off their basic, it's, well, a basic. Pretty standard. She also does an enhanced basic that does an AoE, hitting one target for 60% max HP and the rest for 30%, while also giving 3 recollection points. Though you won't be able to use it until you've gotten your ult for the first time. Her skill gains 3 recollection points and deploys a zone, lasting 2 turns, which increases by 1 every time Cyrene's turn starts. You can think of it like Ron May's skill in that sense. While the zone is active, all allies deal 24% of their damage as true damage. As for her talent, it gives future to your team at combat start or when she has her turn, which gives a stack of recollection when they take action. You need 24 for her first ult activation and 12 for every ult after it, and it cleanses all debuffs on her when casting it. It also gives everyone on the team a 20% damage increase just by being fielded. Now for her ult. Using it summons her Memo Sprite, which gains a turn immediately and fills up your entire team's ultimate. Now she enters the Ripples of Past Reverie state, which allows you to use that enhanced basic I talked about earlier, and she can only use that enhanced basic. Cyrene and her Memo Sprite also get a pretty big 50% crit rate buff and keeps her skill zone active until death. As for her technique, it gives movement speed out of combat and uses her skill at combat start. However, it is a dimension, so it can't stack with others like Jing Lu's technique. I'm pretty sure this also messes with RMC's technique, so if you're using them together, just watch out, right? And now it's time for Memo Sprite stuff. One of these is like really long, so if you want to read into the specifics of it, it will be on screen for you to pause, but I will just be giving basic rundowns of them. Also, from henceforth, I will be considering the Memo Sprite Cyrene Sprite, so it's just to avoid any confusion. That's what it is now. For its skill, it will deal 60% max HP to all enemies, simple stuff. For the talent, Cyrene Sprite will have 0 speed, not appear in action order, unable to be targeted, and will have her HP change depending on Cyrene's HP. This is pretty much to show that they're the same character, kind of like an alternate form, similar to Firefly. Both Cyrene and her Memo Sprite will also get 24% more max HP, and state specs like buffs and debuffs will decrease by 1 whenever she uses an ability. And when she's summoned, it'll also cleanse all CC from allies, which is pretty freaking convenient. Her other skill applies a buff to a character, and if the character is a Kricis heir, they get a special effect, or just a 40% damage boost if they aren't. As for these special effects, this is where the long part comes in. For RMC, it gives them more attack and crit rate, and when their enhanced basic is used, Cyrene Sprite also uses their skill. For Aglaya, Garment Maker gets full speed stacks, gets 70 energy when either attack, increases their damage, and ignores some defense until Aglaya exits her ult. Kirby ignores 12% defense and deals more damage to their follow-up. Maide removes all crowd control. Wait a minute. Anyways, in his Vendetta state, he will enhance skill without using charge and gain a whopping 200% crit damage, and if he's not in that state, he'll just get a 100% action advance. Castries can overflow her ult to 200%, and when the big dragon comes out, she consumes all of the overflowed new bud and gains more damage based on how much was consumed, doing more damage if there's 2 or less enemies on field. Anaxa gets a free skill point, acts immediately, increases his bounces per skill by 3 for a turn, and he also gives Erudition characters 60% more attack and 40% more skill damage until his next turn. Cypher deals more damage and shreds her patron of 20% defense and everyone else for 12% defense. Icing gets a buff when Cyrene Sprite uses a skill, which gives 24 energy, increases her healing by 72%, and the buff gets consumed when Hycene uses her skill or ult. Hycene gets a buff that gives her 60 energy, increases her damage dealt, and instantly procs the dot on enemy when Hycene attacks them. Finally gets 6 core flames, eternal ignition when he transforms, and when he transforms, he has 12 or more core flames for every access points he gets, 12 to 72% crit damage, and when he has eternal ignition, he gets more crit rates, and when he runs up to turns, gets the turns back, gets 4 scourge, and consumes his own HP when he attacks to deal even more damage. But I did read somewhere, I think it was the Fine on Main subreddit, they said that this is actually a nerf, and that if you were one of his passives, you do want him to exit his enhanced state eventually. So take that as you will. I'm not too versed in it. I don't have Fine on, so I didn't read too much into it. But if you have Fine on, be sure to check out the subreddit. It has like all the calcs and stuff and why it's honestly worse, you know? So just an FYI. Evernight gets more damage on her Memostrite enhanced skill and gets more stacks on ult and skill and gives more crit damage based on her own crit damage in her passive. Saritra gives the character with military merit, so the person she E'd, 30% more crit damage and gains another charge point when her reuse skill thing gets used. Dante's Dragon deals more damage based on the bondmate's shield and damage type, while also making the bondmate deal more damage themselves. This also advances the Soul Dragon by 100% and it gives Dante's ult effect as well, and gives it more shielding. And finally, Cyrene. When she gets the recollection from anyone, Cyrene's sprite deals additional damage to one random enemy. She gets story when Cyrene ults, and at 3 story, she gets an extra turn and uses Cyrene's sprite's skill. Alright, finally we're done with that. That entire segment was like a whole third of my script, by the way. There are really just way too many special effects. Oh my god. It's like I'm reading a Limbus Company passive. Also, Limbus Company, great game. You should play it. I recommend it wholeheartedly. If you guys have made it this far into the video, please do me a favor. Go down and give a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton and I really do appreciate it. Now for her traces. Her first one gives all Mema Sprite the future buff, which as we talked about earlier, that gives the ult charges to Cyrene, except this one can't expire. The second one gives more recollection points based on the amount of Kricis heirs or remembrance characters on the team. And finally, her last trace gives everyone a 20% damage boost at 180 speed, and every point over 180 increases Cyrene and her sprite res pen by 2% up to 120%, which is pretty insane. As for her mini traces, she gets a total of 37% crit damage, 9 speed, and 10% HP. As for her Eidolons, E1 makes Cyrene's sprite's enhanced skill give 6 recollection and 12 more bounces. E2 gives her 12 recollection points at combat start and makes his own give even more true damage based on how many times Cyrene's sprite buffed a different ally. Now this is pretty much a key difference maker on how flexible she's going to be when it comes to her team building. E4 makes Cyrene's sprite's enhanced skill do more damage, and E6 action advances everyone by 100%, and when triggering their sprite buff for the first time, reduces all enemies' defense by 20% while on field, and on further uses advances everyone by 24%. For her light cones, you're going to want her premium option, which is of course her signature. It gives 18% speed, makes enemies take 10% more damage when Cyrene's sprite skills an ally, and increases all teammates' crit damage by 16% if it skills an enemy. These buffs also get further increased by 60% when both are active. And as for the FTP options, you either have the Herta Shop light cone or the MOC Shop light cone if someone else is using it already. As for your relics, your main stats will be crit damage, speed, HP. And what I'd personally recommend is just running 2 speed sets like Hackerspace and Ordeal just to reach those speed thresholds, though Deliverer works fine as well if you can hit that 180. For planners, the new set looks pretty good, but if you can't get your ult up fast, you'll be waiting 33,550,300 Wonder what happened there. But yeah, you'll be better off shoving this on another remembrance unit, in my opinion. As for other options, honestly, Von Whack does help quite a bit in getting that ult up early if you can't hit that 200 speed threshold for the first cycle. Bone is also a decent option in just doing more damage, and Giant Tree is nice if you need the speed. As for teams, you can make quite a few, with the core being Cyrene, Hycene or Dante, any Kricis Air DPS, and a flex slot, though this may have some issues in some teams lacking more remembrance units or E2. Where she will really shine, however, is in Mono Remembrance, starring Cyrene, Evernight, Hycene, and of course Cyrene. In this team, she will get her ult relatively fast, even at E0, and the biggest benefit in my opinion is freeing up Tribi for another team. But outside the few teams I've listed, she is pretty rough without E2. She's not a universal support, by the likes of your Sunday and Robin from last year's major patch, she is much more niche. Instead of how normally you would build your team around your main DPS, a better way to look at it is that you're building your team around Cyrene. If you don't build accordingly, she will be completely useless, like if you put Firefly in a crit stacking team. But when you put her where she shines, she pops off. Honestly, the amount of Doom posting is kinda crazy in regards to how long it takes to get that ult without E2. I think if you're not a tryhard sweat trying to zero cycle every endgame, she's pretty strong and will help a lot of accounts. The biggest issue for me is what's gonna happen once we leave the Kricis airs behind in the dust with all the power creep happening. Of course, there is the, oh, Hoyoverse will buff them, they've done it before, but they have also left a lot of characters in the dust. For example, Sele, D-Hill, Fushwan. These characters were once at the top of the world and now they're considered bad to mid without extreme investment or hyper tryharding. Anyway, in terms of pull value, just grab yourself a Trebby and call it a day. But if you do like Cyrene, just go ahead and pull. I'm not gonna stop you, you know? This is your account and you should have fun with it. And also, I'm back. You know, it's been a while. More than a year, in fact, but better late than never. I am planning on doing like a pretty major content swap from my old leak gameplay to more like just information leaks, reviews on games, and guides such as this. And I might start doing some streaming either on Twitch or on here, so I'll just shove that on screen on here if anyone wants to watch me do stupid stuff on other gachas and such. Anyways, on to the giveaway. I am going to be giving away 10 Express Supply Passes, and to enter, you just need to like, subscribe, share, comment down below your thoughts on whatever you want, and just leave Bazinga at the end for me to filter out all the comments that, you know, want to enter the giveaway. And, you know, in a few days, I'll pick out a winner, and I'll put it in a post. All you need to do is comment your UID on that post, and I will send you guys the thing. If you don't get, we don't see the post, and you don't reply to it and such, I will be choosing different winners to put in a different post. So make sure you subscribe so you can see that. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I love you guys so very much, and I will see you guys next time.